Okay guys, in today's video we're going to have a closer look at the Osee GoStream Deck switcher, but more specifically the menu and settings. So let's go ahead and press the menu button here on the switcher, which is going to open up the menu tab here in the multi-view screen. And we're going to use the dial right above the menu button to scroll through all of these options over here that we have within the menu. And we're going to go ahead and start at the very top under color back, which is color background. For us to select this option, we're going to need to go ahead and press down on the dial. So I'm going to go ahead and press down on the dial to enter in right here to change the color background. You'll notice over here in the color 1 and the color 2 options pop up over here. So we have two colors to pick from. And what we're going to do in this video is adjust the color 2 for an example. You'll notice here in the hue, we can go ahead and adjust the hue anywhere from 0, which is going to be like a red color, all the way up to 359. Okay, so we can select any kind of color that you want. For an example, let's say we want this green color, and we can also adjust the saturation from 0 to 100%, and we can also adjust the brightness over here from 0 to 100%, and the current color that we have selected, as you can see, it's displayed there on the bottom right. Next over here we're going to have the super source option. Okay, so underneath the super source, basically what it's going to do is allow a few images to be played on top of each other or side by side. So for an example, if you do want to enable it, you can go ahead and enable it right there, on or off. Underneath enable, we have the option for selecting our source input, so source 1, 2, and also the background. So source 1 and 2 are going to be displayed side by side, and the background is going to be displayed in the background. And currently, as you can see, I have input 3 selected as source 1 and source 2 as my auxiliary. And for the color background, I have selected color 2. So for us to go ahead and display this, what we're going to need to do is go ahead and press the black button right over here. You'll notice that I have the background set to green, as we just previously selected. Again, source 1, which is on the left hand side, is HDMI 3, and source 2, which is on the right hand side, is my auxiliary. And the auxiliary is actually playing a video right directly from the SD card that I've inserted here onto the Osee GoStream switcher. So we can make any adjustments right here between the input sources. Next, what we have over here is control. So we have the option to zoom in. We also have the option to crop zoom in, and we also have zoom in crop. So in my case, I prefer to have it on zoom in, and we can go down to the Y position and use this dial here to scroll down or to scroll up, or position it wherever you would like to. In my case, 50% is going to place it right into the middle. We do also have the option here underneath mask to enable the mask. Mask is basically just like cropping. Okay, so we have the option to crop input source 1, and we have the option to mask and crop input source 2. Okay, so just to give you a quick example over here, I'm going to go to H start, and you can see as I toggle left and right over here from 0 to 100%, it's just going to crop the image source 1 from either the top, bottom, right, left, etc. Okay, so those are the four options that we have over here, and we can go ahead and enable it or disable it if we like to. So the same thing that can be done in mask 2 for the input source that's on the right hand side. And now let's have a look at the border. We can adjust the border. So right now the border is set to 10%, which is basically the thickness of the border. So you can dial it down all the way down to 0 or up to 10%. We can also change the hue of that border. So you'll notice here that I'm changing the hue. Okay, it's more like a blue now. This is for border for input source number 1, which is on the left hand side. We can also adjust the saturation, the brightness, and it's displaying the current color right there. For border number 2, we can basically do the exact same thing. We can adjust the thickness of the border. We can also adjust the hue, the saturation, the brightness, and the current color that we've adjusted is being displayed right over there. Okay, so that's as far as it goes for super source. Next over here we have is key type. And underneath key type, we have a few options to pick from. Currently, right now, it's set to PIP. We also have the option to change it to pattern. We also have the option from Chroma Key and Luma Key. So we're going to start off over here at Luma Key because Luma Key is the next option here within the menu. So going over to Luma Key right now, let's go ahead and take a look at that. We can adjust the source of the key, the mask, the control, and the resize. So starting off over here for the source, let's go ahead and actually activate the Luma Key by simply just pressing the key button. And if you want it to be on the program, which your viewers are going to be seeing, you're going to need to press on air. And you'll notice over here onto the top right hand corner, you'll see the Osee logo, and that's because I have that selected as my source. So if you notice, if I go over to key over here, the setting, I have it set to still 2 key. I can change it to color bar. I can set it to black. I can set it to still 2, still 1 key, still 1. I have the auxiliary, which is the video playing, and I have HDMI 3 available, and 2 and 1. So in my case, I think what works best for my setup, I'm going to keep the Osee logo right there onto the top right hand side of the screen. Next over here we have mask. We can go ahead and enable it, and again basically this is just going to crop that input that we were just playing around with. So just to give you an example, underneath H start, if I adjust that, you can see that the Osee logo is starting to wipe away from either direction, top, left, bottom, or right. Next over here we have control. So we do have the option to shaped key, which we have the option to either turn it on and off. We do also have the control of adjusting the clip percentage and also the gain percentage, and also adjusting invert. So here's an example of invert on and off. You can see how the Osee logo changes. So next what we have over here is the resize. Okay, so for resize, you can see that it's on right now. I can go ahead and turn it off, and that's going to basically bring it to a nice full screen. The Osee logo is going to be displayed right over my image. Okay, so for an example, let's go ahead and turn that back to on because I like the nice size over there to the top right hand corner. And if we do want to adjust the size, you can see right here we have a few options from 0.5, 0.33, and 0.25. We can also adjust the X position, slide it in whatever direction you want. Okay, I think over here on the right hand side looks good, and also the Y position, so up or down. Okay, so that's as far as it goes right now for Luma Key. Next we have Chroma Key, but before I go into the Chroma Key, I'm going to go up to key type. I'm going to select the key to Chroma Key. Okay, if you notice over here, as far as the Chroma Key, you can see my display screen has changed. I have input source on the left being displayed, which is the drone footage. I have the auxiliary playing on the right hand side, which is the video from the SD card, and I have the Osee logo right on top of there. So for Chroma Key, again, we do have the option to select any one of our inputs. Right now I have it to still 2. I can give you an example. I'm going to go all the way to HDMI 1. This is HDMI 2, HDMI 3, and 4. I don't have anything plugged in. Here's the auxiliary. Here's my still 1, which is my logo. And we have still 2, which is the Osee logo, and this is how I have it set up as. We do also have the option of still 2 key, color 1, color 2, color bar, and black. So in my case, I'm going to be using this one because this is how I have preset it. Next over here, what we have here is mask. Again, same idea. We're going to be able to adjust and crop this key of the Chroma Key. So just to give you an example, H start, same idea as last time. We can go ahead and wipe away the mask over here and just do some cropping. Next we have is resize. So if we do want to resize, we can go ahead and turn it on. You'll notice the logo went much smaller. I can adjust the size right over here. I can adjust the X position and the Y position as we did previously. So next what we have here is control, which is SMP X position, SMP Y position, and we do have the option to enable and disable it. And right now you'll notice underneath current color, that is the color that I removed from the Osee logo, is that blue color, and that's why it is keyed out. We can also have adjustments of the foreground, the background, the key edge. Next what we have over here is key pattern. Again, before we go into key pattern, I'm going to go to key type. I'm going to adjust this from Chroma Key to the pattern. So underneath key pattern, you'll notice that we have source adjustment, wipe, mask, and resize. Okay, so let's start off over here at the top underneath key pattern, which is the source. You'll notice over here I have still one selected, which is my logo. Okay, so I can select whatever option I want. For an example, like this Osee logo or my logo. Let's use my logo now for an example. Again, we can use any one of the inputs. So you can see I got HDMI 1, 2, 3, again 4. I don't have anything plugged in. I got the auxiliary option, but in my case, let's go ahead and use still 1. So what we're going to go into next here is the wipe controls. So you'll notice right over here, we can adjust any one of these kind of wipe controls. Like how do we want this to be adjusted? So in my case, what I've been liking is this little diamond shape right over here, or this little circle shape. So let's go ahead and use this circle shape for an example. So I'm going to select it. I can go ahead and adjust the size of that circle. So how much do I want to adjust that shape of the pattern? Okay, so I'm thinking this is looking pretty good. Let's adjust the Y position, and just in case if it was not centered. I think right here looks pretty centered to me. We can also adjust the Y position as well. Okay, so that's looking pretty centered to me. I'm happy with that. And we do also have controls for symmetry and softness. So for an example, for symmetry, you can see here, maybe I want to make it like a little bit more of like an oval type of a feel. We can do that, or we want to stretch it out a bit or make it really circle up and down, oval up and down wise. So I'm thinking this is looking pretty good for my logo. Next, again, we have the softness, so we can basically adjust the edges depending how you like it. I think somewhere where I had it, a nice solid edge. We do also have next here is the mask option. Same thing, we can adjust the mask. So let's just go ahead and show you again, same thing as before. We can adjust the mask between, you know, the top, bottom, left, or right. Next we have over here is resize, and again for the resize it is set to on in my case. We do have the size set to 0.33, and you can see as I make these adjustments it's either going to be bigger or smaller. Let's adjust the X position, so we'll slide it right here and we'll bring it up a little bit, somewhere in that ballpark. That's looking pretty good to me, so I'm pretty happy with that. So next we have here is PIP. So for us to go ahead and to activate the PIP, we do have these preset option buttons here on the switcher, which are labeled MEM1. So I'm just going to go ahead and select that, and that's going to go to my program, which is going to show the PIP, which is displaying a small little image here onto the top left hand corner. We do also have the option to hit MEM2, which is going to play to the top right, MEM3 bottom left, or MEM4, which is going to go to the bottom right. So in this case, I think MEM1 on the top left is going to be a good example. So now what we're going to do is go into the PIP menu settings. So here we have a few options to pick from. We have the source input. So right now it's set to input 1. Let's go ahead and adjust this to maybe something different. I think that looks pretty good, that drone footage there onto the top left hand corner. We'll keep it as input 3 selected for source. We can now go into the next option here, which is size position, and you can see that we have it set to currently 0.25, and we can make it bigger or smaller. I think the size that we had was relatively pretty good. We can also adjust the X position and the Y position, so you can precisely place it where you want to. Next over here we have mask. Again, same old thing. We can adjust the mask, basically crop the image if you want to. So here's an example, just quickly adjusting the H start, and we'll just go ahead to V start to show you what that does. Again, adjusting it and cropping it from the bottom. So next over here we do also have the option to put on a border. So right now we have border enabled, or we can turn it off. So I have it enabled. We can adjust the thickness, basically the width of that border, all the way from 0 to 31. So for now, for this example, we'll just leave it at maxed border, which is at 31. Next, we're going to have a look at the border color. So again, we can adjust any hue that we want. You can see here I'm just scrolling through all the way from 0 to 359. And again, we can adjust the saturation brightness. So next, after PIP, we do have the option here to adjust the transition. You'll notice underneath transition we have mix, dip, and wipe. So starting off here at the top, we're going to go into mix. And for us to enable this mix, we need to press the mix button onto our switcher here, which is going to illuminate in white. And what we have here for options is basically the rate. So how long is that going to basically do that mix transition when you're ready to make that transition. So we have the option from 0 all the way up to 8 seconds. For this example, I'm going to set it to 2 because that's where I like it. But now when I go ahead and hit this T-bar handle or hit the auto transition button here on the switcher, you'll notice how it's basically just kind of fading from one input to the next when I make that transition. So you'll notice when I use the T-bar handle, I can actually manually control the fade. You see how nice and slow that was? Okay, or if I hit auto, it's going to do the predetermined setting time that I have set here at 2. So for an example, let's go ahead and adjust that from 2 all the way up to 8, and now I'm going to hit the auto button transition on the switcher, and you'll see that it's going to take approximately 8 seconds to do that transition, that mix transition. Okay, so I'm going to bring this back down to 2 because that's where I like to have it. Next over here we have the option for dip, and for us to enable dip, same idea. We need to press DIP, dip onto our switcher, and that's exactly what I've just done right now. So let's see what we have the option here to. So basically dip basically means that when I do that transition, it's going to show either that color or that input during that transition. Okay, so right now I have it set to still 1. If you guys remember, still 1 is my logo. So now when I go ahead and hit that T-bar handle to make that transition, or I hit the auto button to make that transition, you're going to notice that it's going to dip, or should I say show my logo here, which is set to still 1. So let's go ahead and hit that T-bar handle, and you can see that my logo just briefly popped up right over there. If I hit the auto button, same idea, my logo is being displayed while it makes that transition. And I do have an option to basically switch it from anywhere from HDMI 1 input, HDMI 2, 3, 4, etc. So again, if we can have control of the rate over here, so right now it's set to 2 seconds. That is my preferred setting for time frame to adjust the transition. We can set it to 8. Okay, so now when I press auto for an example, you'll notice that it's going to take approximately 8 seconds or so to make that full transition underneath the dip setting. Next, what we have here is wipe. So let's go ahead into wipe over here. So now this gets a little bit more fun. We have a little bit more control. So let's see what type of wipe we have. So for us to activate wipe, again, we're going to need to press the wipe button on the switcher. So therefore now when we do the T-bar handle, you'll notice that we have this wipe effect over here, which I have selected in blue. So let's go ahead in here into the pattern wipe here, and you'll notice that between the different transitions we have available to us, we can basically adjust these as we like. So here's this diamond one right here for an example. It's going to be doing that wipe in that diamond pattern. We also have the circle one over here. So there's several over here to pick from. I think this one is also pretty cool right over there. You can see that it's kind of split up into like a cross. But in my case, I think I'm liking this one right over here into the middle for this example. Okay. So next, what we have over here, we have the option for the rate. Okay. So again, same idea. We can tell it how long we want that transition to be. So if I go ahead and press auto right now, you're going to see that it's going to be doing that wipe pattern that I've selected in approximately 8 seconds or so. So we do also have the option to adjust the X position and the Y position. So we can also set the direction to normal and inverse. We do also have the option for symmetry, softness. We can add a border if we like as well, and fill source. So I think these two options here at the bottom are pretty cool for border. So let me just give you an example. So right now there is no border for that white, but if I wanted to be somewhat of a border, let's bring it up to 25% so you can have a see. So now when I make that transition, I have it selected to that border being filled with still 2, which is the Osee logo. So let's just have a peek again. You can see that Osee logo there while I'm making that transition. So we can pick whatever we want as for the fill. So right now it's at still 2. Let's have it at still 1, and now it's going to show my logo. I think that looks super cool right there, that it's transitioning between my logo. Or we can also transition it, for an example, to HDMI 1. You know, that might look a little bit busy for an example. So I think in the logos, the images would be a good option to select. So next we have here is the DSK settings. We do have the option to adjust the source input along with the fill in the key. We do also have the option to do the mask, to do any cropping. We can have control of these shape key, the clip, the gain, and the invert, and also the rate of that transition as well. Next over here we have FTB, which is fade to black. We can adjust the rate and also the audio adjustment. So AFV, audio follow video, we can set it to on or off. So right now I have it set to on. And the rate also, we have the option to adjust from 0 all the way up to 8. So in my case I have it set to 2. So now when I go ahead and press the FTB button, the fade to black button on the switcher, it's just going to go ahead and make that fade transition with the rate that I've set at 2 seconds. As you see right here, it's fading to black. And to deactivate that, you can just press fade to black again and it comes back on. So next over here, what we have is the audio mixer settings. So let's go ahead into the audio mixer settings. This one is nice to play around with, many options. So here we have is mic 1. We have the option to adjust the fader, the balance, the input, and also the delay. Okay, so and we also have the option over here to enable it or turn it off. So for an example, if we don't want mic 1 input to be coming through to our program, we can go ahead and disable it right here at the bottom. So the same options we have here for mic 2 and the same idea that we have here for input 1. So this is HDMI 1, HDMI 2, and 3. We also have the option to control the audio for the auxiliary, which is coming from the SD card or coming from my webcam, and the PGM. This is the overall fader adjustments. So when I do make these adjustments over here, you'll notice PGM fader is set to 3.0. If you notice right here at the bottom of the screen underneath PGM, it's at plus 3.0 as well. So any adjustments that I make here will be displayed on my PGM, my audio level meters. Next we have over here is monitor. So we have an option here to plug into headphones. So we do have an option here to adjust the level of the headphones monitor, and also what source do we want to monitor. Do we want to monitor, for an example, PGM, mic 2, mic 1, auxiliary, all these other inputs. So in my case, I think it's best to be able to monitor the PGM, what is going to be finally exported to your viewers. So next here we have still generator. This is where we're going to be going to select our PNG files from our SD card. So right now for still 1, I have the image 1, which is my logo. I can go ahead and switch it to any other files that I have onto the SD card. And same thing for still 2. I can adjust it to whatever other PNG files I have loaded onto the SD card. So picking your files from the SD card, you can see here that we have the option to select whatever logos that we have on the SD card. So in my case, I only have the 3 logos, which is my logo, the Osee logo, and the Sim Racing Game logo, Assetto Corsa. Next over here we have the macro option. So again, we do have the option underneath the macro to adjust the sleep. We have it set to 500 milliseconds, but we have all the way from 0 all the way up to 10,000 milliseconds to adjust. Okay, so I'm going to bring it back to the 500 milliseconds because that's where I find by default was working best for me. And we do also have the option to do any imports for the macro and export any macro as well. So next we have here is the stream settings. So underneath stream settings, you can see that we have the option to select any platform that you want to stream to. I currently have mine set to YouTube. We're going to be setting the primary server, and we want to type in our stream key. The upload key, which is a very nice feature, that we can load the upload key or the stream key to the SD card and a text file, and it's going to load it there right there for us. And we can tell the switcher if we want to enable the YouTube live streaming when we're ready to go live, or we can disable it. So in this case, I'm just going to keep it disabled for now, but when I'm ready to live stream, I can go ahead and press the live stream button, and whatever is selected over here for output, it's going to stream to those platforms. So the same options here we have for stream 2 and stream 3. So let's just take a peek at the options that we have here underneath the platforms. This one I have set to restream.io. Okay, so let's just go into here. We'll start off at the beginning and give you guys a peek of all the options that we have available from the platforms here on the switcher. Same idea. Next we have here for stream 3. Next over here we have the playback options. Okay, so underneath playback you'll see that whatever video I have playing on my SD card, how do I want to treat it? Do I want it to repeat the video over and over and over, which I currently have set to right now? Do I want it to play in sequential order? Whatever video files are named, is it going to play in that sequential order? Or we have the option to play once and finish. So in my case, I'm going to keep the video on repeat. Next over here is the settings. We do have quite a bit of options here within the settings. Starting off here with the version, you can see I'm at version 1.0.0, build info, the numbers here, the device ID as well. Next over here we have the source name. So right now if you notice on my multi-view screen, all of these little boxes are kind of labeled. For an example, preview on my right, my program on my left, all the HDMIs, the UVC, and the still 1 and still 2. So we can change the name here if you want to, but to me I have no problem with the name the way they are, so I'm just going to leave it as is. So next here we have MV meter, and you'll notice that I have all of mine selected on, and basically let me just give you an example here onto the program screen. So I have right here underneath PGM, so program. If I were to turn that off, you'll notice that my audio level meter it just disappears, so I'm not being able to see my audio level meter. So another example is, for an example, HDMI 1. If I don't want to see my audio level meters over there because maybe for some reason it's distracting, then you can turn it on or off. But in my case I have all of them set on because I like to see my audio level meters specifically in relation to each video. We also have the MV layout. So again, currently right now I have the preview set to my right screen onto the top right and my program set to my top left. But if I wanted to switch those around to program on my right and preview on the left, I can do that if I like to. Next over here we have the marker. So in this case the PVW is set to off. I can also go ahead and turn it on, but in my case I just believe I leave it off. I'm just noticing that when you turn it on we have these little white boxes displayed here on the screen. In my case I don't really need any markers laid out on my preview. So next over here we have mic input settings, so mic 1, mic 2. So right now I have the mic 1 set to microphone because that's what I would be plugging in most cases on mic 1, but we do have the option to set it to line input. So for an example, if you want to send audio from a mixer to the switcher, you can do that as line in, so that's what you want to set it to, and that's why I have mic 2 set as that. And we do also have the option to mic plus power. So if your microphone that you want to send to the switcher requires power, you can also set it to this setting right here. So next over here we had record file, and what we can do is go ahead and select the file name and adjust the name to whatever name you want if you want to be more specific. But basically you can go ahead and record your live stream to the SD card on the switcher, and you can just give it a specific name if you like to. Next over here we have source selection. So for an example, we have the options here for HDMI 1, 2, 3, and 4 and auxiliary. So in my opinion, in my case, HDMI 1 to 4, you're going to keep them as is. There's not really much need to change these unless you really need to. But in my case, we do have the option here to go in auxiliary. So right now, auxiliary, what that's being done is playing the video again from my SD card, okay? So we do have the option, if you want to use a webcam, we can adjust it to USB webcam if you want to, or also NDI. So in my case, which I've used before, is a webcam. So when I plug it into USB-C at the back of the switcher, you're going to want to select USB webcam when you've plugged in your webcam to the back of the switcher. So next over here we have out format, so output format. I currently have it set to 1080p at 24 frames per second. We can go all the way up to 1080p at 60 frames per second, which is probably your best bet for that higher frames per second and quality resolution. So next over here we have out source, which is the output source. I currently have set HDMI 1 to PGM. I have HDMI 2 output set to multi-view, which we are currently looking at right now, and the UVC is also set to PGM. Next over here we have quality. So the record quality, what do you want it to be? Do you want it to be high, medium, or low? I'm not going to adjust that right now because I'm actually recording for this video. And for streaming, what type of quality streaming do you want? Do you want high, medium, or low? In my case, I think it's our best bet to go with high with both of these options. Next over here we have the option to adjust our network. Okay, so the network protocol, the IP address, the subnet mask, gateway, primary DNS, and also the secondary DNS. So if the switcher doesn't automatically detect your IP address, you can go ahead and enter it in manually right over here. So next we have panels. So we can adjust the brightness of the buttons here on our switcher. We go from all the way from 0 up to 15. So basically if you're in an environment that the buttons are a little bit distracting, or you want to be a little bit more discreet, you can bring it down to 0. Or if you're in a well-lit area and you can't really see your buttons on what's illuminated, you can bring up the brightness brightness all the way up to 15. And we do lastly over here have the option to go to reset. We can do a factory reset of the switcher, or we can do an SD card format to format the SD card. So guys, it looks like we covered everything in this video in regards to the menu and settings. So if you guys do have any specific questions or comments, feel free to let me know down in the comment section down below. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys on the next video. Until next time, peace.